You have been weighed, you have been measured, and you have absolutely been found wanting.
Welcome.
The latest update. He says he wants somebody who gets it. He talked to some agents before doing the Kickstarter, and he basically implied that he had some opportunities, but wants somebody who gets it.
And he gets a bigger cut this way.
Well, that's true as well. But
Let's be honest.
yeah, the thing is, it was big for us in the '90s because we were in
Yeah.
college. But we're dealing with TV execs who look at reality TV and procedurals and cheesy sitcoms selling.
But it's not just networks anymore. There's so much opening up, and there's such a
But even on
desperation
cable,
for content right now.
even if we're talking to television, it's still largely procedurals and reality TV.
Well, that's yeah, on like your traditional box. I mean, that's gonna be it.
Mhm.
But I mean, they're looking at opening up new online networks.
Oh yeah, online opportunities could be a thing. I'm surprised Yahoo hasn't snapped it up since he just worked for them
Well,
with
right, and
other
then
space.
and then that you've got CBS and NBC both opening up pay channels
I don't see one
online.
of the majors taking this.
Yeah, but they need something to get people to drive up subscriptions.
Mm,
And CBS with Star Trek could double down for the nerd factor on this, and it
yeah,
would be a brilliant move.
it would work nicely, but I don't see it fitting their brand. They still see their brand as baby boomers, like the generation
True,
older than us, maybe even the generation before that.
true, but I think this plays to boomers too. This plays to a variety of age groups.
It plays to the variety of age groups if you've seen it. There was actually a question to Joel about that, saying, "Will it still be family friendly?" And he said, "Absolutely yes," because he wants it to be as accessible as possible.
Well, right, the movies though. I
Mhm.
mean, they're boomers that remember some of these
Yeah,
movies
true. Most
for
of the
some
movies were
fun.
a bit before our time, actually.
Exactly. So it plays to a variety of ages. It's
Yeah,
funny to know no matter who
right.
see it. But then you have some people actually watching for the nostalgia of the movies and going, "Oh yeah, that really did suck back then."
Yeah, and a lot of the references were way before my time. I've noticed. I've been watching it on Pluto. They've got a whole MST3K channel, and there are references to people who I know are actors, but I don't know that I've ever seen them in anything because they were
Wow.
like '50s and '60s era.
Yeah. I think my favorite joke that off the top of my head was they're doing like a beach blanket bingo kind of movie and they're like dancing around it and one of them just says, "Man, we sent the wrong people to Nam."
Yeah, that's a little before our time. So
So
it
funny.
does have that wide appeal. I'm just kind of hoping he makes the 5 million and can just do it on his own. Just so Joel has full control.
Well, we shall see.
Mhm.
It'll
All right.
He's
Well,
definitely going to do something with it though now.
yeah. All right. So on to this week's movie, which is from 2001, A Knight's Tale. Of course, that brings us to the impromptu plot summary, sponsored by Rat's Beaten Hot Wine. The dream of a full stomach can come true with Rat's Beaten Hot Wine.
And also brought to you by Thatcher's rose-colored glasses. Love the Middle Ages, but not the overly oppressive government, religious institution, and caste system? Try Thatcher's rose-colored glasses.
Overly oppressive government, religious institutions. Sounds
Hmm.
familiar.
Yeah, I guess some things never change. Anyway,
Hmm.
we have, we've got the squires trying to revive their knight, and he has, he has ceased to be.
Gone off and turned the choir invisible.
Yes, yes, they little nod to the parrots get there.
Mhm.
Uh, and so what do? I mean, these guys, they're not noblemen. They are
Peasants.
they're peasants, and one their meal ticket is lying there dead.
Mhm.
So out of desperation, one of them suits up and sneaks into the tournament to just try to make a little cash. And all he really has to do is stay on the horse.
Yeah.
So he takes the hit, he holds on, and he winds up getting them good 13 gold pieces.
15, because it was 5 for each.
That's right, 15, and then he gave them one each, and the rest of the 13 is for his brilliant scheme of becoming a knight full time and getting more of the take themselves. Although it sounds like he was a better knight than the knight that they actually
Well, he had to do a lot of training to get there, though.
Oh yeah, and I mean 2 montages in the first 30 minutes.
They didn't bother me this time. I don't know why, but I enjoyed the montages.
All right.
Anyway, we'll get to that.
So yes, he trains and trains, and then he jousts and jousts, and well, he becomes a good knight, and he wins championships all around. Of course, there is a love interest, because well, with
You have to.
over 2 hours to go,
Yeah.
you got to put a love interest in there somehow. And of course, we're talking about the Knight's Tale, and there is about the courtly love thing that Chaucer would speak of.
Speaking of Chaucer,
Yes, you had to have Chaucer himself in there because this is, they're saying inspired him to write some of the tales.
well, yeah, the implication is that it inspired Canterbury Tales as a whole, at least the concept.
Well, I mean, it's framed around the pilgrimage, but
Yeah. And there's Peter the Summoner and Simon the Summoner and Peter the what was it?
I cannot remember.
The characters from Canterbury show up.
Was he
and
Parsner or Pardner? No,
Partner. That's it. Peter the Partner and Simon the Summoner. Yeah. And Chaucer owes them a debt, which leads to one of my most favorite lines from a movie of all time. But we'll get to that. I'm jumping ahead.
So yes, on the way to one of the battles, they run into a naked dude who turns out to be Chaucer himself, and he's down on his luck, and they help him out. And well, he also helps them with some of the forged documents to get them into the tournament. And of course, a knight needs a herald, someone who can talk the crowd up.
And boy, does he!
And boy, does he! Of course, he does everything but let's get ready to rumble.
One of my perspective titles was Chaucer: The Michael Buffer Years.
And well, I mean, there isn't really much of a plot after that.
It's a typical sports movie.
Right, he goes on the father quest to meet his father, and he nearly fucks the entire thing up, of course, because he's supposed to be this other nobleman, and there's his poor father. And but of course, it ends with the girl in the stands with his father, and it's next to impossible for him to win. And oh my God, what will happen next?
And the baseball hits the scoreboard, and everything explodes. And
yes. And Air Bud comes up and pisses on. I don't know. Anyway, hilarity ensues.
Yes. Now this is a lot longer than I remembered it being.
Yeah, I had thought I had time to get some technical things done last night and watch this movie, and then I saw the time and was like, oh, damn.
I figured this was an hour and a half at most. It was 2:12, and it doesn't really drag, which is the amazing part.
There is a bit of redundancy.
Well,
I don't know about it. It doesn't really drag, but
it doesn't feel like 2 hours and 12 minutes.
There's definitely a lot of fat on here still. Like I mean, this is the dude that wrote and directed L.A. Confidential.
Yeah.
So he,
Well, he wrote it. I don't know if he directed it.
Or yeah, he at least wrote it. So he directed this.
Yeah. His writing credits it's Brian Howell, and his writing credits are a lot better than his directing credits.
His writing credits are all over the fucking place. Yeah. It's like, I mean, if you ever see like a drunk driver in their progression, that's this dude's writing career. I mean, The Postman, LA Confidential,
Taking of Pelham 123,
Taking of Pelham 123. I mean,
The Order, which he also directed, which starred Heath Ledger, Mark Addy, and Shannon Sossamon, also in A Knight's Tale.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
Now, they very quickly let you know what the movie is going to be, because they have that opening scene with the dead knight and they decide, Will, our hero, is going to pose as him and joust. And then we get to the joust and immediately you hear, "We will rock you."
Yes.
Now, going into this movie back, 10 years ago, whenever it was I first saw it, I fully expected to hate it.
Well, yeah,
Just
because
on the concept.
this is shortly after Romeo and Juliet, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
And this is in a very similar vein to it.
Mhm. And it really surprised me. And maybe it's low expectations, like I talked about with Sucker Punch, but I really enjoy this movie. And I shouldn't. On paper, I should hate this, but
Oh, definitely.
it works really well.
It
And
has a charm to it. Which is
yeah.
why what I mean. You can see why you'd love it and hate it.
And you mentioned Romeo and Juliet. This is kind of a Shakespeare modernization in reverse. With the Shakespeare modernization, you modernize the setting, but you keep the language because it's
Right.
Shakespeare. In this case, they kept the setting old, but they modernized the music and a lot of the dialogue.
And the a lot of the dress and the
Yeah,
attitudes.
and then the dance in one section. Um,
Well,
though,
yeah,
though that did give me an opportunity. I had my ukulele in my hands. It gave me an opportunity to learn the chords to Golden Years. So that's little got a little something out of that scene.
it's not exactly my favorite Bowie song, but you know what? I've had it in my head all day long, to tell you the truth.
Hmm.
But it's weird how the music is all. I guess it's not weird. It was very much intentional. Now I think about it, that it was
Uh, you know,
that
they don't fit
classic
the time.
rock era,
Well, they don't fit the
that he went
time,
with.
but it makes it feel like it should. It makes sense emotionally, if not chronologically and logically.
I mean, the taking care of business was a little weird. That didn't really. I mean, I understand they're being very on the nose, like
Yeah,
he's getting work done, but musically, it didn't really fit.
I've always had a soft spot for that song. I know it's not a great song, but I've always kind of liked it. So
Once they sold it to Office Max, it was just. I mean, it's kind of dead, you know.
it's like I said, I got a soft spot for it. And that gets nicely to the training montage, which I enjoyed, and I can't explain why. Maybe it's because I have a soft spot for that song. Maybe it's because there were some legitimately good jokes in it.
They did two montages within half an hour.
What was the other one? You had the initial training montage.
You had the training a and then you had a jousting montage
Oh
after
yeah,
that,
yeah.
or sword fighting montage, I
Mhm.
think. Him and all the different opponents.
That didn't even register to me, but the training montage I actually enjoyed.
They're like 15 minutes from each other. That was hilarious. I was like,
And then they introduced Chaucer, who was a great character.
yeah. I mean, realistically, I mean, the dude was like a bureaucrat. He
Hmm.
was,
Well, he's not the real Chaucer, of course.
he was, pretty well to do,
Mhm.
and he was set there. You wouldn't have seen him wandering around down his luck like that, of
Yeah, yeah.
course.
Although apparently there were a few years when he was missing or that are unaccounted for in his life, which is the reason he was put into this movie to sort of play on those. It was a 6 month period in the 1370s.
He has more documentation on him than Shakespeare, which
Mhm.
is, if you think about it, he's a
Quite saying something, yeah.
he's but it was because he worked as a clerk and a noble, a bureaucrat, that his signature is on so many documents.
Yeah. But I loved when he came in and he's explaining that he's a writer and they don't even know what writing is
Right.
because they're peasants in 1370s.
And of course, I mean, for those that don't know, I'll say this anyway, the reason why he was so important was because he wrote in English.
Yeah.
So that's how why this movie makes a lot of sense, even though it's not accurate.
Mhm.
It's the spirit of his storytelling,
Yeah.
and I mean, he had a lot of bawdy stories too,
Mhm.
more than Shakespeare even.
Oh yeah.
And
Read the original uncensored Canterbury. It's quite enlightening.
exactly, and yeah, so it, the thing at the end of the credits, after the credits,
Mhm.
would have been something exactly that Chaucer would have written about.
You're right, and I didn't get that at the time. I actually have in my notes it's completely unnecessary, but you're right, it really does fit Chaucer.
Yeah.
Now, there's a great scene when they first introduce Chaucer, and he's explaining, he can write royal patents for them, basically to convince the people running these jousting tournaments that he is noble.
Which his cover story works in England,
Mhm.
but once he gets onto the continent, it's like,
How does he know
would
French?
well, wouldn't you run into somebody from Liechtenstein more likely in
Oh,
France
yeah, yeah, yeah.
than in England?
Well, his name was Liechtenstein, not that's not where he was from. He was from Gelderland, which is actually a place in the Netherlands.
Okay,
It
okay.
was it was Ulrich von Liechtenstein of Gelderland. Gelderland.
That's what it was. Then
Yeah.
they'd thrown in so many places
Mhm.
to muddle it up.
So Liechtenstein was the name.
Yeah, which you'd have to assume there was a connection to Liechtenstein.
Mhm. But there's this great bit where Alan Tudyk's character Watt, incidentally, Alan Tudyk, Mark Addy, Paul Bettany, Rufus Sewell in the same movie,
Yeah,
which is I think a big part of why this works. This is also the movie that convinced me that Heath Ledger could act because he can hold his own with them. But there's a great scene in which Watt, Alan Tudyk's character, is saying, if you betray us, I'll fong you, as he says it, which isn't actually a word. I've checked.
right.
It basically just means I'll beat the shit out of you.
He speaks gibberish pretty much.
Yeah, and
That's
he
the point
says,
of his character.
your entrails will become your extrails, which is a great line. But you can tell at that moment he's saying this line, and it looks like, and I don't have any trivia on this, but I'd be willing to bet that Tudyk actually legit lost it when he said that line, because there's this great moment where he just stops talking and they're just kind of looking at each other.
Yeah.
And Chaucer in the movie, such a great hype man. His intros sort of make the movie. At one point, he says, and I love this line: "We walk in the garden of his turpulence," referring to Will, our hero. I looked up turbulence. There are definitions now, but it looks like they were kind of coined for the movie.
Really?
I get the impression it was just something Paul Bettany made up on the day.
Yeah.
Incidentally, something about his armor I thought was interesting in that same scene. He's got a shield sort of built into the arm piece.
Yeah.
I never knew about that. I don't know if that's period or if they came up with it, but it's a really interesting design. Incidentally, full plate armor had not been developed until the late 14th century, after the movie was set. And the Murrian helmet seen on common soldiers in multiple scenes was not used until the late 16th century. So it's not just the music that's anachronistic.
He gets ribbed for using like the shield too in one
Mhm.
scene.
Yeah.
Like, oh, how quaint, you're still doing that. And it's kind of like, oh, I don't know. And
If I've got
then
a lance coming at me and I can use a shield, I'm going to use it.
if you notice later on, Adamar, he has a shield himself.
Yeah, yeah. And that was who Rufus Sewell's character. That was who made fun of him for using a shield.
Right. You notice like later when he goes to fight for in the end, he has a shield himself.
Mhm. Now, on the whole, this is shot very much like a typical sports movie,
Oh, definitely.
which doesn't seem that interesting until you wrap your head around it's a sports movie about jousting,
Yeah.
which makes it very interesting because some of those, tense music and the close-up shots and that stuff you've seen a billion times in a sports movie, when it's jousting, makes it really interesting to watch.
Well, it's the statement that, we pretty much did things to, for blood sport.
Yeah, yeah.
We haven't just started this since the dawn of television.
Hmm.
We've been doing this for centuries.
Yeah.
In fact, the way they even treat some of the war as a sport itself or a
Mhm.
distraction too
Yeah.
is an interesting statement.
Human nature is human nature.
Yeah.
And then they get to this tournament, and Chaucer is basically detained by Peter the Pardoner and Simon the Summoner because he owes them money. Will has to bail him out effectively. And it leads to one of my favorite lines ever in a movie, though I often misquote it. I shall eviscerate you in fiction. I always remember it for some reason as I shall eviscerate you in verse, probably because I'm a poet. But
Yeah.
I've always loved that line. I shall eviscerate you in fiction.
You and all the other English teachers. I mean,
You were the English
well,
teacher.
well, when I was student teaching, this was shown. I actually taught a little Canterbury Tales and
Yeah.
Chaucer, and this was actually something that the master teacher would actually show.
Mhm. And
So,
they were fond of that line.
well, yeah, all the other teachers too. They were just yes, I shall eviscerate you in fiction.
Of course, this isn't going to be a love fest because the romantic subplot did get incredibly boring. And I think it's because there was absolutely no chemistry between them. The individual performances were fine, but put the two together and there was nothing.
It it was very crowbarred, and I mean, you kind of confusing at points too. Like when they were at odds with each other,
Mm.
it was like, wait a minute, did I miss a scene?
Yeah.
Was there a scene cut out? Like
Mhm.
he suddenly pissed with her, and it's just like, wait, what?
She was kind of unnecessarily moody.
Yeah,
Her moods just kind of changed randomly. There was one other main, female member of the cast, Laura Fraser, who played Kate the blacksmith, who was woefully underused.
yeah.
He had like 3 lines, and I've seen her in other things. She's very talented. I wish they would have given her more to do.
And then there's the Queen's lady
Oh
who
yeah, yeah,
she's
she
just.
had a few lines too. I forgot about
Did
her.
she even lunch?
She had like one or two here and there,
Yeah, she.
to the point where I actually completely forgot about her.
Right, because it was a very forgettable part.
Mhm. Now, also in the movie are a series of flashbacks to Will's childhood when he sees the jousting tournament and asks his father if he can become a knight. And his father encourages him and says a man can change his stars. And this was at a time when there very much was a caste system in England.
Right. Just no.
Mhm.
What the fuck was that even? I mean,
Well, I was kind of I thought the first flashback was fine. The second one seemed a little unnecessary until they paid it off with the scene where he found his father again. And his father was blind, and they had this nice reunion.
it's crazy talk though if you think about it. I mean,
Oh yeah,
yes, his whole premise is that we're the same, as
it's a
we've
Rocky
always
story.
been.
It doesn't work without that crazy part.
But to say that society has been the same as it's always been
Oh yeah, yeah,
is just batshit crazy.
Mhm. Yeah. But they do make it clear that there is a caste system, and it's the odds are very much against him,
Well, right.
and he's doing it by lying, and eventually gets caught. Incidentally, were we expected to think there was actually a chance he was going to run?
Ah, nah. I mean, what would the plot have been then? Him
Yeah.
on the run.
Right.
It had to have ended somehow with him jousting. It
Mhm.
was the whole point of the movie.
And it was kind of obvious that the king was going to show up again. There was not the king, the prince. I'm sorry, who he had shown some mercy to early in the film. Was going to show up again and bail him out effectively and knight him.
Well, uh, that's the funny thing. It's not that he showed him mercy, it's that he was actually willing to play the game.
Well, he did take a
So
dive.
the deal is,
He didn't take a dive for him, but he agreed to a draw so that he didn't kill the guy.
well, the deal is that it would be unlawful to knowingly harm a
Right,
prince.
right, right.
So the prince would show up to the joust in disguise because he's bored out of his mind.
Yeah.
He sees how much fun this is, and he wants to get on it too. And once Adamar had figured out that it was the prince, he quickly throws up the white flag and backs out of the tournament. And
So he doesn't end up hanging.
and well, Will decides, fuck it, let's give him a run.
Mhm.
And they do have one, they have one run in together, and then
Well,
you
there's
know,
one early in the film where there's an issue with the mask, and he says, I'm done, but um, basically, Will agrees to give him a draw.
oh, is that the prince
I'm pretty
again?
sure that was the prince as well. It's before we know it's the prince, but I'm pretty sure it was because he had the same helmet.
Oh, okay.
And that's the courtesy that the prince refers to when he says, "I'm paying you back."
Oh, all right, all right. I
He gave
thought
him
it
the
was that.
draw instead of taking him off the horse and possibly killing him.
Yeah.
Speaking of the jousting scenes, plenty of effects were expended creating lances that could convincingly explode upon impact without injuring the stunt riders. The body of each lance was scored so that it could break easily. The tips were made of balsa wood, and each was hollowed out and filled with balsa splinters and cooked linguine. So a lot of what you see exploding there is actually pasta.
All right. Now, Adamar also cheated, of course.
Mm. He tipped his lance.
How is it not obvious that he tipped his lance? Like when the lance is stuck, impaled
In Will's shoulder
in Will's shoulder, how come there was no one who running the tournament would be like, this guy's an asshole and a cheater?
because we don't get that great ending scene where he's, says, "Take the armor off me and lash the lance to my arm. I'm going to take him down."
It's ridiculous.
But yes, it's ridiculous, but we need that ending scene.
It would
You're
be like,
analyzing A Knight's Tale. You're doing what I normally do. You're nitpicking it
yeah,
for
but wait a minute,
realism.
hold on. There's nitpicking, and it's the equivalent of having a football movie where someone just whips out a gun and shoots the fucking, receive linebacker or whatever, and
Good
then
point.
runs in for a touchdown.
Yeah,
And
true,
everyone's
true.
like, "Oh yeah, that was a great movie pulled out there. I don't know how, you just
Fair
how'd you
point.
get away from him? I don't know."
But they needed to make it as difficult as possible for Will to take him down, but actually make it possible for him to take him down. So putting a big hole in his shoulder did the job.
Yeah,
The thing is, during that scene, I knew the ending, but I was still really pulled into that scene.
I don't know if I'd ever made it to the ending actually, but I
Oh,
knew how it was going to end.
well, yeah, it's a sports movie, of course.
Yeah. I mean, I'd seen most of this, like, in the part, however many parts it took for many classes
Uh,
to get through for them to have seen this.
and in that last scene after he takes him down, it was really obvious that Rufus Sewell was suspended when they were all looking down at him.
Well,
I mean, it
yeah,
was it was kind of a dream sequence sort of a thing, so it works, but it seemed an odd choice instead of
it
just laying him on the ground.
was a very obvious choice, obviously done and intentionally done. It wasn't a mistake.
Well, no, and I guess it was done to make it more dreamlike, I guess.
Yeah, kind of in mid-fall
Hmm.
that he had
Yeah.
this
Well,
vision.
no, it wasn't in mid fall. It was while just before they came at each other. And I don't know who imagined it. I'm guessing it was Will. It was kind of his visualization of Adamar on the ground and all of them standing over him with the original version of what we used for an intro, except it
Yeah,
was Welcome to the Real World.
not zombie takeout.
Yeah.
How do we always get that wrong every week?
Then there's one other bit of anachronism that caught my attention in the trivia, but I need to go back and watch the movie because I completely missed them while I was watching it. The cityscapes of Paris and London contained the Eiffel Tower and London Eye as inside jokes
No,
as to how you always expect to see them. I didn't catch them while watching the movie. I don't know how I missed the London Eye.
that's really funny.
I mean, the Eiffel Tower, maybe it's just a tower. I could have just, that could have escaped my vision because I'm accustomed to seeing it and it's just kind of background. But a giant fucking Ferris wheel should have been really obvious in this movie. The London Eye is a giant Ferris wheel, for those who
Right,
don't know.
right.
I'm pretty much done with my notes.
Yeah, I am too.
All right. No sequels or remakes. There's really no room for a sequel because
No.
it's a sports movie. He achieves his goal. All you can really do is the next generation.
And Chaucer becomes,
Yeah,
Chaucer after
Josh,
this.
right.
There's no room for getting
Mhm.
out of that.
Right. As much as I love the movie, I wouldn't want to see a remake because I don't think you can, catch lightning in a bottle twice.
You know what? Am I crazy or do I remember them using Kid Rock in this?
I don't remember it, but it wouldn't surprise me if it had been in there. Hmm. The only thing that I was that caught me like that was the "I shall eviscerate you" in fiction. I remembered that wrong, but everything else fit my memory.
Hmm.
But Kid Rock would have fit very nicely in the movie, of course. They kind of more stuck to classic rock.
Yeah, they stuck to like 70s to early
Mhm.
80s.
Yeah. Oh, incidentally, the boys are back in town scene totally reminded me of Olympic opening ceremonies. All of the jousters coming in with their heralds and their flags. Probably the origin of Olympic opening ceremonies.
Well, yeah, and it's kind of what Lucas was going for before the pod race, which
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah.
pretty much what this movie was, a 2-hour version of.
I don't know about that, but
Oh,
okay.
come on. It's a sporting event that you know the outcome of
Yeah, yes,
before.
in that sense, yes, yes. But that's any sports movie.
True,
Every
true.
sports movie, you know the ending before you start watching it, or by the time you know who the main character is, you know where it's going to go. On the brains.
On to brains.
I love this movie. I have issues with the romantic subplot, though it kind of pays off with Adamar at one point saying he's going to marry Jocelyn, and it really pissing Will off, which right before that pivotal ending joust. And I thought, Laura Fraser was a little underused and little minor issues here and there, but I overall love it. I'm going 4.5.
I mean, I liked it, but I couldn't recommend this.
Oh,
It's great if you're like, if you are a literary nerd and you want to see something
okay.
about Chaucer.
Uh,
But I'll go 3.5.
all right, and what have we learned?
Uh, shouldn't be the flower misses the sun.
Hmm. And I learned that it's for each man to decide for himself if he's allegorical. It's a Chaucer line earlier.
Yeah.
All right, so until next time, when we'll be reviewing Frankenhooker, one from the early '90s that I've seen on a couple of free preview weekends, back in the day, and I always really enjoyed.
I've seen this in a video store, like the cover, but I've never actually seen the movie itself.
Mm.
I never wanted to, as a kid, take it up to the counter,
Yeah,
lay the
yeah, yeah.
money down for it.
Well, this wasn't that old. It's '90, so
Oh, really? I think it's
I was
earlier.
surprised by that. It feels like it's an '80s thing, but
It
it's
does.
'90.
Huh.
Hmm. I'm pretty sure. All right, anyway, until then, go to zombietakeout.com, check out the album art, the episode description, of course, the episode itself, which you're already listening to. Links to find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, and YouTube. Links to subscribe via RSS and iTunes. Please leave us a rating and a review on iTunes. We'd really appreciate it. Also, if you enjoy the show, give us a little word of mouth. Spread the word. Of course, we appreciate all of the listeners we have, but more would be better. You'll also find the movie list, every movie we've reviewed so far, and every movie we're going to review. I think we're definitely up to the end of the year. I don't know if I've put the Godzillagy in place yet.
No, you haven't put it yet.
We're starting 2016 with all three Godzilla movies, and I mean the recent ones: the Roland Emmerich one from '95, I think it's '95 or '98, the Japanese one from 2000, and the Gareth Edwards one from a couple of years ago. All in a row, not the same week. We've learned our lesson with
Holy
that,
shit.
but 3 consecutive weeks. We always got to do something big and insane at the beginning of the year. You also find the request form. If you've got a movie you'd like to hear us review, please leave it on the request form. And of course, the recommendations list. I thought this was a shoe-in for the recommendations list.
Oh man, it was. I think if they had toned this down to maybe an hour 45 or so, I think they'd have it.
Hmm.
But it was just too
Didn't
long.
drag that much for me.
It was just too repetitive,
Hmm. It's a sports movie.
right?
They're always repetitive. That's the point. He's got to compete and compete and compete to get to the top.
Yes, and if you do a sports movie over 2 hours, they
Well,
usually
yeah.
don't
Okay.
work.
Fair enough. Fair enough. It is a little longer than
Yeah.
it maybe should be. Anyway, you can email us zombietakeout@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at 414-368-ZTO1 or for the Alpha Numerical Challenge.
You can eviscerate yourself with fiction.
You can go find yourself till you're in trails or extrails.
Oh, damn it. Yeah, that's better.
414-368-9861. Of course, always remember that you'll always be going from the middle of Milwaukee. And until next time, always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life, there you are.
There you are.
Well done, my lord. Noble victory.
Don't know if I've put the Godzillagy in place yet.
No, you haven't put it yet.
we're starting 2013. 2013.
2013.
That was an interesting little up. I don't know where that came from. Probably because I'm thinking trilogy.
We're going back in time.
Reset. That's my outtake.
I just invented this thing in the garage, and we could go
Mm.
and just do an extra year for 2013.